So it is Sunday, the 24th of September, and we are outside the Unitarian Church of Montreal protesting against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy, which include, but are by no means limited to, such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers and certain Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, and the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association goes to extreme and foolish lengths to try to cover up and deny sexual abuse of children and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers and so on, when they think they can get away with it. Even after a minister has been charged, tried, and convicted of pedophilia or rape or both, the Unitarian Universalist Association still tries to conceal that fact if they can do so. So basically a lot of censorship and silencing going on, and that is certainly an injustice, and certainly an abuse of power, and certainly outrageously hypocritical in that it violates several Unitarian Universalists. It's always a good morning when I'm accused of blasphemy by Unitarians. It's a wonderful morning. Doesn't get better than that in the 21st century. So this woman says good morning to me. This is, as far as I'm concerned, just a form of willful ignorance and psychological denial. Be nice to the protester, be pleasant to the protester, but the fact of the matter is that it's just a diversion. Like, I'm protesting some serious issues, some serious problems with not just the Unitarian Church of Montreal locally, but the Unitarian Universalist religious community globally, really, and certainly in terms of North America. And yet the best certain Montreal Unitarians can do is say good morning, have a nice day kind of thing. It's like almost an insult, really. Have a nice day. But actually it is a nice day. I do enjoy actually being accused of the criminal act of blasphemous libel in the 21st century by atheist Unitarian Universalists. I mean, that's hilarious, really. I mean, the reason for being accused of blasphemous libel is not really very funny, but just the fact of Unitarian Universalists, and especially atheist Unitarian Universalists, accusing me of blasphemy in the 21st century is quite literally laughable. In fact, I did actually burst out laughing when I read the cease and desist demand letter they had me served with in June of 2012. When I first read it, I just literally burst out laughing, and that was actually even before I got to the blasphemous libel bit. There were other rather foolish and literally laughable accusations that they brought against me. I think I burst out laughing when they accused me of threatening and defamatory conduct amounting to sexual harassment of one Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy Mason, because I used the term sucks and blows at the same time to describe her two-faced hypocrisy. So they were essentially trying to construe that the colloquialism sucks and blows at the same time, which is about inhaling and exhaling air at the same time, something that's pretty well impossible to do, and that's what it's all about. It's about doing two completely contradictory actions within a very close time frame. In other words, it's a good term to describe, hypocrisy, especially hypocrisy, where somebody says one thing and then immediately betrays what they said through other words or actions, within a very short time frame, which is what Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy Mason did. So when I saw them accusing me of sexual harassment of Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy Mason, because she apparently doesn't know the difference between inhaling and exhaling air, and what the other thing is, that was just quite hilarious to me. I mean, maybe Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy Mason should take an OWL refresher course if she doesn't know the difference between inhaling and exhaling air and sucking and blowing, you know, in terms of its other meaning. So yes, just totally ludicrous for the Unitarian Universalist Association and Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy Mason herself to try to pretend that my use of the term sucks and blows at the same time to describe her rather glaring hypocrisy was sexual harassment of her. You know, they might as well accuse me of sexual harassment for using the first name of Reverend Dr. Peter Morales, which is Peter, and can also be understood to be a pseudonym for a penis. I mean, you know, it's just insane. You know, it's just totally ludicrous sexual harassment accusation. But of course, the idea was to intimidate me into removing my blog post, which exposed the two-faced hypocrisy of Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy Mason. That's what it was all about. You know, they were basically falsely accusing me of sexual harassment of Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy Mason in an effort to force me into taking down my blog post, which exposed her two-faced hypocrisy. So that didn't happen because I was more than ready to defend myself in court against that accusation. I think there's some reasonable doubt as to whether or not the term sucks and blows at the same time can be construed as sexual harassment, especially when, if you use the other interpretation of the words, that it is no longer a contradictory action. It's exactly the same action. So it loses its sense. I mean, the only way to properly interpret the phrase sucks and blows at the same time is if you interpret it as inhaling and exhaling air at the same time. If you interpret it as sucking something else and giving a blowjob, etc., it loses its meaning. You know, if the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney had only practiced Unitarian Universalism's fourth principle, which calls for a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, regarding my use of the term sucks and blows at the same time to describe Reverend Kelly Murphy Mason's two-faced hypocrisy, he would have realized that it was about inhaling and exhaling air and thus not in any way sexual. But no, you know, he just had to do that. Of course, you know, Kelly Murphy Mason herself obviously had to approve of this legal bullying, so, you know, maybe Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy Mason should take some remedial English language courses as well. I'm sure she would benefit from that. So anyway, that's when I burst out laughing in reading that cease and desist demand letter that I found in my email inbox on Friday, June 1st of 2012. But I have to say that I kept laughing when I read the rest of that letter. It was just insanity, really, on the part of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Each one of the accusations that were made were demonstrably either outright false or highly questionable. In other words, that at minimum I could establish reasonable doubt. At rock bottom minimum, I could establish reasonable doubt that I was guilty of what they were accusing me of. But in most cases, they were just outright false, easily proven to be simply untrue. Especially, in fact, the blasphemous libel accusation. That was perhaps the one that was most glaringly untruthful. For starters, the attorney and his demand letter said the following words. Okay, I see my battery's about to go, so I'm going to have to change battery soon. But he said, your unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are defamatory, and, you know, so defamatory that they constitute the criminal act of blasphemous libel. Unfortunately for Maitre Colombe, there was nothing remotely unfounded about my allegations about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell of the Westborough and Northborough parishes of Massachusetts, and likewise there was nothing